Whether you are a player or a DM, the way you utilize your character or your monster's actions is one of the most important aspects of D&D 5e and one of the most important things you need to master if you want to create characters and monsters that are fun to play and fun to play against. So in this video, I want to dive into the actions of 5e, the action economy of 5e, and show you how you can create characters that are fun to play in combat and to create monsters that are fun to pit your characters against. As you probably know, every character, every creature gets their action. The action is what we would in previous editions call the standard action. It's the bread and butter of every character and creature. It's where you get to do your main thing, whether that's casting a spell or taking the attack action or whatever else your character is capable of doing. Every character and creature also gets a move. This is not technically an action, but every character and creature gets to move up to their speed on their turn without taking an action to do so. And of course, if they want to move more, they can take the dash action, but that's a whole nother thing. So action and move, those are probably the two things your character or creature is doing on every turn of combat. As you may also probably know, there are a few more actions available to, well, every combat. Most notably, there are bonus actions, which as the name indicates, is just an extra smaller action you can take on your turn. In most cases, these actions are not as impactful as a full action, but they can be quite useful. Now, not every character gets to make a bonus action on turn. In fact, most characters don't, unless they have specifically picked up features, items, spells, stuff like that, that will enable them to take a bonus action. Then there are reactions. In most rounds of combat, most characters and creatures will not get a chance to take a reaction, because the only reaction that is really widely available to combatants is the opportunity attack reaction, and that is only triggered if a character moves out of your reach. Then we of course also have the object interaction, which is basically just opening a door, pulling something out of your pocket, drawing a sword, and this doesn't really count as an action. It'll never really have an impact, unless of course you are in a scenario where you can shut a door behind you to keep someone back, stuff like that. But in most cases, the object interaction is very situational and not going to be very impactful. Finally, there are some creatures that get legendary actions, which sort of functions like reactions, as in they can be used in other creatures' turns, but they are only available to certain creatures, and for the most case, only creatures at a certain CR, so you'd usually see them at CR 5 or more. Now, if you think really well about your last character or creature that you've created for your players, try and consider how often did you really use your bonus action and your reaction. Because in most cases, and for some character classes and some creatures especially, you'll only really use your action and your move every turn. While there's nothing inherently wrong with this, it is from both a fun perspective and also an efficiency perspective suboptimal. For the fun perspective, if you only have that one action on your turn and whatever you're doing on that action fails, well, your turn is just a waste. I've seen this countless times where a player will have their fighter run up and strike against the creature and the blow misses, and well, that's turn over, on to the next player, and we have a disappointed, maybe even bored player sitting back going, oh well, I did nothing this turn. Likewise, a wizard casting a spell, sometimes a monster is going to save against your dominate person spell, or sometimes the creature you're controlling as the DM is going to use a spell that the character save against.
You have no power here.
And those are really, in my opinion, the suckiest parts of D&D, these wasted turns where you just feel like you didn't even contribute to the combat. Now, from an efficiency perspective, you're also leaving something on the table if you're not utilizing your bonus action and your reaction in every round of combat, because it simply is more actions you could have taken. It stands to reason that even if the attack action is half of what your character is capable of, and we only attribute 25% to the bonus action and 25% to the reaction in terms of raw output of damage or effects that you can have on the battlefield, you're still leaving half of your character's potential on the table if you're not utilizing that bonus action and that reaction. And the same goes for monsters as well. It may not be a big issue if you're running a pack of goblins or you have multiple enemies, but every time you're running that single big bad evil villain type character that is going up against the player characters mostly alone, you will want to have them do more than a single thing on their turn. So what I'm trying to say here is that in order to get the most out of combat in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, you need to really think about how your solo monsters or your player characters can make the most of their turns in combat by utilizing not only the action and the move, but also their bonus action and their reaction. Now this is a fairly simple concept. It's not that hard to understand. Okay, I just need to use my bonus action and my reaction. But the fact of the matter is that most characters and most creatures in the monster manual, for example, they don't have bonus actions and reactions readily available for them. Often case, it's something you either need to create for your monster or something you need to actively pick up if you're playing a player character. So what I wanted to do now is go in and give an example of how you can make player characters that are more fun and use their action economy better, and also how you can make monsters that use the action economy better and will be more challenging and dynamic when you're putting them up against the players. But there's a pretty long video, so I decided to instead cut this video into 3 parts. This first part where I explained my philosophy on action economy and why I think it's important to really think about action economy when you're designing player characters and monsters. And then 2 videos, one for player characters specifically and one for monsters specifically, so there's something for both players and DMs. Now if you're a DM, I encourage you to watch both videos because you may want to encourage your players to make player characters that keep bonus actions, reactions, everything in mind, because they're gonna have a lot more fun if they do so. Those videos will be coming out shortly if they're not already on the channel, in which case you'll find links to them in the description down below and maybe in some card stuff up here. I'd also love to hear your thoughts about action economy in the comments down below. And if you like what we do here, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Every little bit helps out a lot. You can also support the channel and get a whole lot of new 5e content over at patreon.com/eventyr. There will be a link to that in the description down below. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot left to say, except thank you for watching, and I hope that I'll see you in the next video.